Hello again. It's so good to be here again. I know, been a bit MIA. I've been busy. In any case, yesterday, Friday, July 21st, 2023, was a very interesting day at the cinemas, as I'm sure everyone is aware. Yeah, everyone's gonna be making a video about this, so might as well just add myself to the chorus of noise. Of course, I'm talking about Barbenheimer, the double feature release this day of Oppenheimer and Barbie on the same day. Two completely polar opposite films by two very interesting modern filmmakers. Of course, we have Christopher Nolan, who is easily one of the most prolific filmmakers of our time. And then we have Greta Gerwig, a young independent filmmaker who just started off on her debut directorial and screenwriting features with films like Lady Bird and Little Women. In any case, it was a super fun day at the cinema. I basically took the day off to just enjoy this day and really just soak in the films, because both films honestly are plenty to digest. This is not your typical Hollywood film release for so many reasons. But really, it was nice to see the crowd, that a lot of the crowd was wearing pink. Everyone was in the Barbenheimer mood. And indeed, I started the day with Oppenheimer, and there's a dude even wearing a Stetson hat and like a trench coat. The guy went all out. It's summer over here, so it's super hot, and the guy still went decked out like that. Good on you, man. But yeah, a lot of people wearing pink, regardless if they were going to see Oppenheimer or Barbie. I'm sure a lot of them were going to see both, kind of like me. I mean, it really is a unique day to choose to go to the cinema. In any case, Oppenheimer. This is a massive 3-hour historical epic, basically a biographical picture on Robert Oppenheimer's life. So without going too much into spoilers, of course, there are many timelines happening in the film. Of course, there's a very first-person view of Robert Oppenheimer's life, which is in color, whereas in his black and white sequences, you have a much more detached perspective rather than from the much more intimate and personalized storyline of that arc. So it is quite a dense and layered film in so many ways, not only through the multiple timelines, many kind of characters we come across, just going through Robert Oppenheimer's thought process, which is quite the visual and sensorial revelation, really. Like, I was trying to explain to a friend how these sequences are, but like they're almost like clouds we would find in space, like exploding stars. It's really hard to describe, but it really is quite a beautiful cinematic and auditory experience. The whole theater was practically shaking, and basically these are like symbolic representations of the way Robert Oppenheimer explores his scientific and theoretical explorations. It's fascinating and mesmerizing. I'm really like at a loss of words of how to describe it, but it really is quite the visual feast for the eyes, and definitely going to be a highlight this year. Really, in terms of visual fidelity, Oppenheimer is truly immaculate. The cinematography is on point. Everything is super clean, super detailed, and authentic to its time period. And really, the visual crescendos that you're going to find on screen, it's not your kind of action film. Once again, this is a 3-hour drama biopic, a historical biopic on this really complex and nuanced character. And I guess that's the part that I didn't really expect to find. Might have assumed that this guy Oppenheimer was just the devil himself. And indeed, we do have quotes in the film: "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." I mean, these are heavy words. And even the opening frame of the film, a screen just wreathed in flame with this massive text saying, "Prometheus stole fire from the gods and gave it to man. For this he was chained to a rock and tortured for eternity." I mean, my God, what an opening statement. The film really does feel like every single frame of the film is just calculated to the minutest millimeter, and it feels like it's holding the weight of the world on every single frame of this film, of this massive, what is it, like 11-mile long IMAX reel? Yeah, kind of crazy, but I mean, that's Christopher Nolan for you. And really, once again, okay, so the visual part is just an absolute knockout, auditory wise as well, just absolutely phenomenal, like almost like earthquake inducing the kind of sounds that were there. It really is worth it to see it in IMAX just to get the full blast of that visual and auditory sensation. There's a scene that really stands out for me later in the film after the Hiroshima bomb, and everyone's applauding Oppenheimer, and he really doesn't feel good about this because obviously, I mean, it's a terrible, terrible thing that just happened. And he's the one who created it, indeed, and he does bear that cross. Once again, that Prometheus quote, I mean, he's going to be tortured for that for the rest of his life. Visually, the film really symbolized that in interesting ways. Like, the crowd is almost completely blurred out, the screen is shaking, the sound is like so buzzing and vibrating. It's as if like you are shaking with the cinema scene itself. It really was quite, once again, the force of nature in terms of visual and audio. Yeah, Christopher Nolan really just always gives it his all on each film. Like maybe they're a bit hit and miss every now with some of his films, but there's no question that he is one of the most prolific filmmakers of all time. Really, I mean, once again, I never saw his first film, but Memento, Insomnia, Batman Begins, Prestige was a phenomenal film. The Dark Knight, of course, Inception, The Dark Knight Rises, Interstellar, Dunkirk, and then Tenet. My God, what a track record! Now Oppenheimer on top of that. Yeah, he truly is one of the most thought-provoking, and I do think that this kind of slow burn 3-hour biopic film really couldn't have been made by anyone else on this day. I think most other filmmakers will probably be bombing hard at the box office. Hopefully this film will have a success because I do think it is worth seeing. It really is quite a phenomenal film that I'm going to be digesting for quite a while. And before I forget, the entire cast is just phenomenal. Cillian Murphy is just radiant in his role as Robert Oppenheimer. I'm thrilled to see him finally get a full-length feature role like this, which I feel he hasn't gotten enough of. I really do think he's one of the unsung heroes in modern acting cinema. Not to say he's like the greatest actor of all time or anything, but I think he does a stupendous job over here. I mean, just look at him, Peaky Blinders. Once again, it's cool to see him get a full feature-length film, but he's not the only star in the film. There are so many. I could literally just spend a whole video talking about the cast themselves. Florence Pugh, though I am surprised she had a smaller role, relatively speaking, in the film, I think she did great. Emily Blunt, she had an interesting character arc as the wife of Robert Oppenheimer. I really do like how she kind of just rises from the ashes in a way later on in the film. She truly has some nail-biting performances. There are a few surprise appearances like from Casey Affleck and Gary Oldman of all. Whoa, those are showstoppers. And of course, Robert Downey Jr. I think really gives one of the best performances of his career thus far. I mean, I'm kind of expecting to see an Oscar nomination, maybe even a win. In any case, yeah, Oppenheimer is a terrifying, powerful, just crushing film that I really do wholeheartedly recommend if you can stomach the 3-hour long runtime. I do think it's worth it. It does feel like a 3-hour film. Some 3-hour films go by like a flash in a pan. This is not one of them. It really goes at a crawl of a pace, but I do think it is worth every moment of it. I'm probably going for a solid 9 out of 10, maybe pushing to a 9.5. It really is a force of nature. By the end, I just felt totally just bludgeoned by all the info and just kind of wild emotion and visual auditory sensations I went through this film. Yeah. Fucking A, Christopher Nolan. And now for part 2 of Barbenheimer Day, I went to see Barbie later in the evening. And this is a complete polar opposite, tonally, from Oppenheimer as it could have been, which is kind of what makes this day so legendary in a way. Yeah, I loved it. And of course, dressed up in pink for both occasions, though I did wear a black tie yesterday for Oppenheimer, though I kind of did wish I had like a Stetson hat. In any case, I digress. Barbie. I don't know what anyone thought this film was going to be. Like, I don't know what I thought this film was going to be. And it definitely wasn't quite that. I went in expecting the unexpected, and boy, did I get that. So just to start things off a bit, I was always intrigued when I saw like a Barbie film initially, like, whatever, like I didn't really grow up on Barbies personally. But then when I saw that Greta Gerwig would be writing and directing this film, I thought like, wow, okay, that's kind of weird. Interesting rather, because she's a indie drama filmmaker. I really like what she did on Lady Bird and Little Women, 2 fantastic films, and especially Lady Bird, which as a directorial debut and a screenplay that she wrote, really interesting stuff that she did there. So to have that kind of filmmaker helming a Barbie project of all things, well, that's an interesting choice. But then things got really confusing when I saw in like a teaser trailer a 2001 Space Odyssey homage. What? Like the most avant-garde experimental film, even to this day, a film that came out in 1967, an all-time classic, really one of the greatest and most daring films of all time. An homage to that in a Barbie film? What? And things get only weirder from there a few months later when I learned that some of the film references used for Barbie were The Matrix, Zero Experiment Lane, and Paprika. What is this movie that we are getting into? Obviously, I'm not going to go into spoilers, but let me just say that this is not a film for children. This, even for adults, sometimes me and my friend, we were looking at each other like, what did they just say? There's so many things that happen in this film that are kind of just really unexpected, for good and bad. Honestly, for the most part, I love the film. I think it was hilarious. I was laughing my ass off the whole time. Admittedly, there are a lot of moments that are very, very, very cringe, but you know what? For the most part, the jokes worked. It was over the top, just in a sensory overload, especially with all that pink. I really do love the set decoration and the costume design. I think they just knocked it out the park. The cast as well, just a star-studded cast. Even for these little short, tiny appearances, you know what? They were tastefully done, and everyone gave great performances. Do I think Margot Robbie, she did a phenomenal job? I think the real star of the show for me was Ken. But by that same token, I find that I kind of hate how the men are treated in this film. I mean, like, female empowerment and all that all the way, any day, every day, yes, of course. But to like leave the men in the dust like that, I don't know. There are some ideas in this film that I kind of find questionable. But by that same token, I think there are a bunch of other ideas that are truly fascinating and raise a lot of interesting questions. I truly do take my hat off to Greta Gerwig for tackling the Barbie IP in such a novel and creative fashion. I do think it's a bit hit or miss, but for the most part, I think it works quite well. Once again, in terms of art direction, it's quite spectacular. It looks like no other film this year. It really is quite interesting to see Barbie adapted in quite such a unique way, and really the cast was just so jovial. They really had the right energy. The casting was just on point. Yeah, I was laughing my ass off, but I'm still like a full day later thinking like, what the hell did I just see? I think this is even like more bewildering than Oppenheimer, which is no small feat. So yeah, Barbenheimer, what a day. Honestly, I'm ranging somewhere between a 7 and an 8 out of 10. Like I said, there are a bunch of ideas that I think are a bit hit or miss. Some of the jokes are a bit too cringe, but overall, I really did enjoy it. If nothing else, it is a bit avant-garde and wild and creative. Like, if you were expecting something normal and you're kind of bored by Hollywood complacency, you're not gonna get that in this film. I appreciate it. I don't regret having seen this film, especially both films. So yeah, once again, I'm ranging anywhere between a 7 and an 8. I'll probably go for an 8 because really, there's nothing like it, either this year or in previous years. So yeah, I had a wonderful day at the cinema, and I'm happy to be back with another video. I did record another video, and it's been like sitting in like somewhere in my files for like almost 2 weeks now. Guys, I just haven't had time. No excuses. I'll probably come up with another video soon to just, I guess, a bit of a life update maybe. But in any case, I'm alive, I'm keeping busy, I'm well as can be given everything that's going around. Always happy to be back here to talk more films, games, music, whatever with you guys. I guess more often than not in this channel it's films, but whatever the occasion may be, I look forward to it every time it happens. So on that note, I'm gonna leave you guys. I'm gonna get on with my day, and I wish you and your loved ones nothing but the best, as always. All right now, take care.